Hey there, it's Tom here on behalf of Indie Structural Productions once again with another What Do You Want to Know About Guitar Building? The show that probably has the most unnecessary long title ever. Nonetheless, we have a new question. Now this is still from the previous batch from the previous video. Usually every Wednesday on Instagram I post a little question thing. And I either ask people a question or sometimes I just ask people what they'd want to know when it comes to guitar building or want to know more of. The question I answered last week was one of those, and this is another. This one came from Patrick, and he just said, quilted maple and through neck. So I asked him to be a little bit more specific on what he meant, and he elaborated by saying that, you know, the challenges that you'll get when you're trying to hand plane quilted maple and stain it. And then for the through neck, it was about truss rod installment into a through neck instrument. And from talking with Patrick, he was more talking about the truss rod installment on the body side. But we'll start with the quilted maple thing first. So first and foremost, if you're not aware, when it comes to highly figured woods, especially things like quilted maple, trying to work those down with hand planes and stuff like that, they tend to tear out quite a bit. What I would do is first take it down to closer to the thickness that you're actually going to end up with. Then either use a smoothing plane, but if you don't have one, then a very easy way to do that would be to get yourself some scrapers, some really good scrapers. Now these will come very, very handy. When it comes to highly figured woods, whenever you are planing something that has a figure into it and you're possibly getting tear out from just going straight along the grain, I found that it's actually easier if you have yourself going a bit, you know, sideways. So you're not taking, you know, passes like this, but you're going a little bit to the side. Having a plane to show you will help along the wood like that, but instead going a little bit at an angle. That means that you have a little bit less contact on the blade, that you're actually taking away a little bit less material in a way, but you're cutting, let's see, how would I explain this? Cutting the wood like this, you're gonna be taking shavings that are the width of your blade, depending if you have an angle set onto your plane or not. If you're going like this, you're doing more of a cutting action, like you were to use a knife or something. Now, instead of just going straight like that, most often you'll go like that whenever you're using a knife on a block of wood or something like that. You'll notice that you have a lot less friction to it and you'll be able to pare away wood much easier. The same sort of principle applies when you're trying to actually plane something down. So the same principle applies when you're trying to plane something down. Trying to go along the grain, if it's giving you some resistance, will of course be a lot harder than trying to take away less material. Now you're still taking away technically the same material, but you're just cutting it at an angle where it is rolling off the blade, so you're not constantly at the same level, if any of that makes any sense. But step by step, what I would suggest doing is take the quilted maple down to a workable thickness, so closer to, but not to your final thickness, hogging away material with a planer or a plane or something like that. And then after that, just either sand it with an orbital sander or a hand sander. You can do it by hand, but who in their right minds wants to actually hand sand something? Yeah, as you can tell, I don't like sanding. Or use a bunch of different scrapers. If you have curves and carves, then use curved scrapers in combination with straight scrapers. Get them really sharp and they will give you a really good finish. A lot of the time, using scrapers will give you a better finish than doing sanding. So, nifty tools. Definitely good to have plenty of different ones. So when something dulls down, you can just pick up another without having to stop your work in between to sharpen it, even though sharpening these does not take long at all. Maybe that's another video I'll film at some point. Let me know if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Now that was a very convoluted and tangent-oriented video that I'm gonna hopelessly try and put together in the editing phase. hopefully I'll be able to make some sense of it. And hopefully I managed to answer some of these questions. Now this is the part that I realized during the edit that I actually forgot to answer the question about staining. So, okay, I'm just gonna go over it right now. If you have a highly figured piece of wood, like this one here as an example, what I usually do when it comes to staining, and I've made videos on this, but just real quick, basically I like to do it in two different passes, like against the grain and then with the grain. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So no matter what colors you're deciding to use, I've noticed that you actually get much better results out of quilted, flamed. This is just a piece of flamed birch, but it drives the point across. Let's say that we take just one single color and we're going to do it just that color. So like blue, red, yellow, whatever you want to do. So I'll start off with my stain and I'll go across the grain for the first initial layer. Then after that, once it's all fully dried, sand it away and then go with the grain. And that, I've noticed, is actually a fairly good method to getting like really deep color into your figuring. And yeah, I haven't done that with quilted maple, I don't think. I can't remember for the life of me. But with flamed maple, it really does work very well, as with a couple of different other very highly figured woods like the Carillion birch and stuff like that. And generally that's the way I go about it. I have not tried that particular technique with spirit-based stains, but with water-based stains at least, that is a result that really works very well. And then of course, depending on how you sand it down in between the two stain processes, with what grits and what colors you use, you can play with different effects. So I would basically start off with just using a test piece, kind of see what you're going for, try and get the kind of finish that you're thinking about, and experiment. See what you come up with, and yeah, have fun. Oh, the truss rod thing. So, this is the only through neck that I have at hand right now. So I'm going to use this as an example. So even though the truss rod access is in the headstock on this particular base, you could just as easily do it here. It's not that difficult when you're actually making a through neck, because it's just a matter of where do you end your truss rod channel and how do you want to end it. For instance, you could just go ahead and when you're routing the truss rod channel, go all the way into the body side and route all the way there and then cover it up with the fretboard. That way you have easy access. It is literally that simple. If you want to cover it up with something, you can cover it up with something. For instance, ding walls do this quite a lot. Actually, I think all ding walls have the truss rod adjustment on the body side. So I'll put a couple of pictures here that you can check out what I mean, but it's fairly straightforward, really. It's just a matter of which way do you want to route. And of course, if you're routing to the body, you have a lot more thickness to everything, and instead doing it onto the neck side, you are basically putting the truss rod into the thinnest part of your neck. Granted, make a volute and you're done with that problem as well. I guess it just all boils down to personal preference. The methods in which you do it don't change at all. Just a matter of, do you want to make a truss rod cover onto the headstock? Do you want to make a truss rod cover onto the body? Or do you just want to leave it as it is? It is really that simple. Now that was a lot easier to answer, so I'm not going to make that into a separate video. That's just going to be a part of this one. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed me blabbering on about this, that, and the other. And hit like, comment down below, let me know how much you didn't understand any of this, and I will give it another shot if need be. And yeah, hit the bell. It helps out so much. Like YouTube loves that stuff, and it helps out my videos in a way that well, views used to help back in those days. Simpler times. But yeah, going with the algorithms and stuff, sometimes it's a pain. Sometimes I avoid it. Sometimes I create my own algorithms. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. YouTube is a strange, strange world. Anyway, subscribe to see more of me going on completely pointless tangents. And yeah, go make some dust. See you guys.